Okay, so my name's James. Just coming back to this channel, I'm going to be bringing a lot of NBA discussion videos. I'll cover, big trades, news, signings, and just anything that I find like really necessary to discuss. Today I'm going to be talking about the Portland Trailblazers and why I think they could really struggle for the next 15 to 20 games, and just like how that could, influence their chances of clinching a playoff spot. So after probably putting together the best roster that they've had, since Dame has been the man. I know was it the 2018 team that went to the Western Conference Finals? That was a good roster, but I think coming into this season, the general consensus was that this was the best roster this team has had in a while. But it's become pretty obvious quite quickly that this team has some serious issues, and it's mostly on the defensive end of the floor. And I think they're really going to see more problems continue in the next 6 to 8 weeks as Nurkic, their defensive center, I mean not really defensive center, but their big time center, is out, and he has probably thus far been the best defender on the team. So just a quick stat, on the season they rank bottom 5 in defensive rating, which isn't normally which isn't anything out of the ordinary for the Blazers, but I think they're going to see it get worse, which is the crazy thing, because they're going to have to start Enes Kanter at center for the foreseeable future. And if you know anything about basketball, it's that Kanter is probably the worst pick and roll big defender in the league, and it makes this a real problem for the Blazers. I mean, Nurkic, when he's healthy, has been a pretty consistent defensive player. He's nothing outstanding, but he's been their defensive anchor, I guess. And he makes smart reads. He's a pretty good pick and roll defender, and he generally protects the rim pretty well. And with lackluster defenders around him this year, except for Robert Covington, I suppose, he's been keeping that ship afloat on the end of this, on that end of the floor. And I mean, if you want to call bottom 5 in defense afloat, I guess you can. But yeah, you insert Enes Kanter into that role, and it seems like it's a real step down on that side of the floor. And look, I'm a Kanter fan. He provides really good offense, crazy consistent offense, if we're being honest, off the bench. And his rebounding is really good, especially offensive rebounding. I'd probably say he's the best offensive rebounder in the league. But you start to play this man more than 20 minutes a game, and it really starts to become a problem. It's been a problem throughout his whole career, with the Knicks, with the Celtics, with the Blazers, with OKC. He's always better off the bench. You remember in OKC, he had Steven Adams in front of him, who's a massive, he's a big defender. That's what he's known for doing. And so Kanter could kind of freely come off the bench and just play for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, get his rebounds, get his points, and not be a huge liability and not close games, which I think is the biggest issue here. And they're definitely not going to be able to do that with Kanter at center. I think they're going to have to roll with Robert Covington at center. Even Melo at the 5, I don't know if that's going to work. But they normally close with Melo, and they obviously will close with Robert Covington. So I think they're gonna close games with Rocco at the 5, Melo at the 4, probably Derek Jones at the small forward spot, and then it's obviously Dame and CJ at the 2 guard spots. Getting back to Kanter, I think that, like I said, playing this man over 20 minutes a game, their Blazers are going to get exposed by quick guards, offensive-minded big men, and if you look at tonight's game, Kanter was actually alright. To be honest, he guarded the pick and roll pretty well. Trey was pretty dreadful tonight from the field. He shot 7 for 24 or something crazy like that, and I know that's not I'm not saying that that's Enes Kanter really influencing those shots. I think Trey's just been off the last few games. But, yeah, he had I think he had 5 or 6 blocks today as well. The only issue was Capella scored 20 points in the first half against him, and most of it was just him, coming up on the pick and roll to guard Trey on the perimeter, and Capella just slipping behind him and him losing track of him on defense or whatever. And it's just you can't have sustained success on the defensive end when you go to center that can't, play consistent defense on their main opponent. So I think that teams are really going to force Cantor into guarding the pick and roll. They're going to stretch him out to the perimeter, you know, out of his comfort zone. And the coach, Stotts, is going to have a lot of headaches for the foreseeable future. And I don't really know what the answer is here, you know? Like, he's not really someone you can hide on D. I don't think Harry Giles is really ready to play more minutes than he's currently playing. Zach Collins is still out indefinitely. I'm not really sure what's happening with him. I think he dislocated his shoulder, and I'm pretty sure he had surgery like a couple weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and I haven't seen anything about his return yet. And again, I'm not sure. Like, I guess he would be the starter if he was healthy. He's a pretty solid defender as well. But, you know, he gets in foul trouble all the time, so it's just like, pick your poison, really, for the Blazers at the moment. I mean, they can't at the moment, actually. They've only got one center, really, on the roster besides Harry Giles. So, yeah, like I said, I think the biggest, the answer to this question is just Rocco at center for a bit. But, like, you can't, like, you can go small for a bit, but teams are just going to, again, they're just going to abuse that. They're going to go to that matchup every time. And, like, Robert Covington can survive, but you come up against like Davis, you come up against like Embiid, any sort of quality big man, even like a Dwight Howard would just, you know, it would just be a mess. And I guess with that, I'm just gonna move on to Robert Covington here, and like, geez, man, you reckon the Blazers would take this trade back if they could? I mean, like, trading 2 first-round picks, one of them was unprotected, and this guy's shooting like barely 30% from the field. He's been dreadful. And it's really unfortunate because, you know, for like as long as I can remember, Robert Covington has been, you know, one of those players with that reputation of just being that great 3-and-D wing. You know, he's affordable as well. And yeah, he's been like the top of that. He's always been that person that comes up in trade rumors, because of his affordable contract and his play style. He fits on any team flawlessly, really, if you like think about it. But, you know, to see his offense this year especially just fall off a cliff is just so frustrating, because I feel like the Blazers definitely made the correct decision here, moving for him, like making the trade. He wasn't, like, amazing in Houston, but, you know, he did what he did as advertised, I suppose. Maybe in like a lesser capacity. But, like, the Blazers have lacked wing defenders since, like, Aminu and Harkless left the team a year or two ago, so... Yeah, I don't blame them for making this move. I just think it's really unfortunate that, like, so far, I mean, it's only been however many games, but, you know, so far I think this has been a bit of a failed experiment. Like, he's had some good, like, moments one-on-one this season, but his defense has fallen off as well, and, like, what are we, like, 10 or 12 games in, I think? Well, let me have a look. Okay, yeah, so Portland 8-5, so that'd be 13 games. Okay, so 13 games, and, let's have a look. So Rocco's defensive rating is by far a career worst. It's at 112 right now, and that's points scored per 100 possessions while he's on the court, and like, that's a career worst for him. And this is even compounded by, you know, his offensive rating, which is also a career low at 93. He's bad on both sides of the court, and these stats don't even incorporate tonight's game, man. Like, he went 1 for 13 from the field. Like, he held John Collins to 8 points on 10 shots. I didn't watch the whole game, by the way, so I'm just assuming that was his primary matchup, because I think that, like, you know, that's probably where he'd be defending. But, you know, so props for that, holding John Collins to 8 points. That's no, like, easy feat, but still, like, man, 1 for 13, that's tough, and he needs to pick it up. I think he's averaging like 6 or 7 points per game on the season. He needs to get that up to double figures. He needs to be 10 to 12 points per game, with at least some, you know, semblance of efficiency from 3. You know, he can shoot 40% from the field, but that's, you know, that's what he normally does anyway, because he's taking most of his shots from 3. But, you know, this season's just been dreadful so far. I'm pretty sure both his field goal and 3-point percentage are like barely above 30, which is, it's just not good enough for, you know, what the Blazers gave up for him and what he's supposed to be. And the crazy thing is, you've got Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum taking, you know, the brunt of the offense. So it's so surprising that he's struggled so mightily in this system, because you'd think he'd be getting open shots and corner threes and cutting, and like, it boggles me that he's shooting so poorly. And, you know, it has been only 13 games, so like, it's only a small sample size, but, you know, it's only another 10 games before that small sample size becomes concerning, you know. And I guess the good news for the Blazers is they're still 8-5. I mean, I've been talking so much trash about them in this video, and they're still 8-5. So I think it's important to recognize that they have been, I guess, successful. Like their net rating, which is like a combination of offensive and defensive rating, is like, it is positive, obviously. And it barely, might I add, but I think it's just important that we recognize that these issues are going to start becoming quite noticeable, especially without Nurkic. It's going to be tough, man. They beat Atlanta tonight, but, you know, it took Trae Young shooting 7 for 24 or something close to that. And, you know, they had some, I watched the end of the game, they had some really dumb turnovers at the end as well. And it's, I don't know, I don't see them being a top 6 side when Nurkic returns, if that happens, you know, within 6 weeks or whatever. I think a good goal for them would be to float around 500, you know, like to stay in that hunt, like 7th to 10th seed. But man, like the OKC 11th in the West and they're at 500. It's insane this year. It's gonna be a really, really close season. I don't know what's gonna happen, especially with the lesser amount of games. It makes it even more confusing. But yeah, I'm gonna get to one more thing before we get out of here. Is just CJ McCollum. He left the game tonight. He scored 16 or something in the first half, and then left with a sprained foot. And I'm not really sure if this was, I didn't watch the first half tonight, so I'm not really sure if this is like a serious injury or if it's just like something that's been lingering for the past couple of days, or if it's anything more than what they've announced. But that's all they've said, is it's a sprained foot. And I think if this, I'm really hoping it's not, and I suppose it won't be. It's only a sprained foot, so hopefully it's only out for tonight and maybe a game or so. But I mean, Damian Lillard's gonna have a hell of a time trying to score enough points to keep them competitive if CJ's not out there, man. Like, CJ's been their leading scorer this year. He's been improved in everything, really. I think he's shooting career highs from basically everywhere. And yeah, I just didn't really see this happen. I'm not sure if it happened in the game or if it happened prior to the game. And he just was fighting it, but yeah. And yeah, the Blazers haven't really officially posted anything about it besides the announcement that he wouldn't return tonight. So all in all, you know, I hope he comes back quickly and hope, you know, that's all fine, because that's another hit they just really can't afford to take with Nurkic going down again. Yeah, so Blazers are going to struggle on defense, and I think, like I said, if they can just keep their head above water, you know, stay at 500, I think that would be a pretty good effort, you know. And I'm not putting it past him. Damian Lillard's fantastic. He's probably like the second best point guard in the NBA right now. Could have that debate another time, but yeah, I don't know. What do I know? They'll probably win their next 6 and make me look like an idiot. But yeah, whatever. All right, so I'm out of here. Subscribe for more videos if you like this one. Chuck us a like, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks, guys.